The average life expectancy of a Waffen-SS soldier on the front lines was just 2 months. These elite Nazi fighters faced a brutal reality when the Third Reich collapsed. By 1945, thousands of SS members simply vanished, melting away like frost in the morning sun. Where did they go? How did so many of history's most wanted criminals manage to disappear without a trace? What shadowy paths did they follow to evade capture? In this documentary, we trace the chaotic final days of World War II, when borders blurred and identities shifted overnight, uncovering the mysterious networks that operated in darkness, helping Hitler's most loyal killers escape the justice awaiting them. Chaos of collapse. The final days of the Third Reich. As the Red Army closed in on Berlin in late April 1945, the once proud SS found themselves in a desperate situation. These men, who had terrorized Europe for years, now faced a reckoning, with Soviet artillery pounding the German capital and Western Allied forces pushing from the west. Thousands of SS members made frantic calculations about their survival. For many, the choice came down to 3 grim options: surrender and face potential war crimes charges, take their own lives following their Führer's example, or attempt to vanish into the chaos of a collapsing nation. The final days of the Third Reich created unprecedented disorder. SS units scattered across Europe were cut off as communication networks failed. The hierarchical structure of Nazi Germany crumbled, what one survivor later described as the disintegration of order itself. In Berlin's government district, SS officers burned documents in courtyards, while artillery shells crashed nearby, the smoke from burning papers mixing with the dust of collapsing buildings. In this power vacuum, individual SS members determined their own fates, abandoned by superiors who had already fled. Many SS soldiers recognized their distinctive insignia, and uniforms would mark them for harsh treatment. More damning was the blood type tattoo many SS members bore under their arms, like permanent brands that made them instantly identifiable. This seemingly minor detail became a critical identifier for Allied forces separating SS personnel from regular Wehrmacht soldiers. The Americans developed an effective protocol, ordering captured German prisoners to march shirtless with arms raised, allowing easy visual inspection for these telltale markings. Aware of this vulnerability, desperate SS members went to extraordinary lengths to avoid detection. Some resorted to crude self-surgery, cutting or burning the skin around their tattoos. Others used cosmetics to temporarily conceal the markings. I saw men carving their own flesh with pocket knives, recalled one American officer at a prisoner processing center, desperate men willing to mutilate themselves to escape identification. American forces, anticipating these evasion tactics, distributed detailed guides teaching soldiers how to spot attempted concealment. The process of self-disguise extended beyond hiding physical marks. SS members destroyed anything linking them to the organization. They tore up membership cards, burned identification papers, and discarded uniforms and insignia. Many sought civilian clothing or regular army uniforms, hoping to blend with the millions of displaced persons and surrendering Wehrmacht soldiers, aiming to become anonymous in the aftermath of defeat. For high-ranking SS officers, the situation was particularly dire. Those captured by Soviet forces often faced immediate execution without trials. Western Allied forces generally adhered to legal processes, but this still meant interrogation, investigation, and likely prosecution. American and British forces meticulously documented captured SS personnel, preparing cases for trials and imprisonment. The once elite Waffen-SS suffered catastrophic losses in the war's final phase. Their casualties mounted exponentially during the desperate last battles. As Berlin's defenses crumbled and the Eastern Front collapsed, these units were often ordered to fight to the last man, resulting in near destruction of many formations. Despite Allied efforts, thousands of SS members disappeared. In the confusion of mass surrenders, bombings, and civilian displacement, many slipped through the initial dragnet. They became ghosts, neither confirmed captured nor known dead. This mass disappearance wasn't merely a product of chaos, but often resulted from careful planning. Even before the war's end, senior Nazi officials had begun preparing escape routes, safe houses, and false identities. What initially appeared as random disappearances would later reveal itself as something more organized, a systematic effort to shield war criminals from justice and preserve Nazi ideology beyond military defeat. The Shadow Network, Odessa, and the Ratlines. The disappearance of SS officers wasn't merely opportunistic, it was orchestrated with military precision. Behind these escapes stood an international network so effective that it managed to smuggle war criminals past Allied checkpoints using documents issued by the very organizations trying to bring them to justice. This systematic effort to shield war criminals had a name, and its influence extended far beyond what investigators initially comprehended. While the Nuremberg prosecutors assembled evidence against captured Nazi leadership, a shadow operation was already in motion. Odessa, Organisation der ehemaligen SS-Angehörigen, organization of former SS members, emerged as the most notorious of several clandestine networks dedicated to spiriting away those who had served in Hitler's elite guard. Though historians continue to debate the extent of Odessa's formal structure, there's no questioning the effectiveness of these escape networks, collectively known as ratlines. These ratlines functioned like underground railroads for war criminals, providing hidden passages through hostile territory toward freedom. Each route was meticulously mapped to minimize exposure, while maximizing the chances of successful passage out of occupied territories. The primary escape corridors began in Germany and Austria before branching through neutral countries that offered critical buffer zones where Allied jurisdiction held less sway. Switzerland and Spain proved particularly valuable transit points, providing both geographic advantage and political insulation from extradition demands. The final destinations were carefully selected. Argentina, under Juan Perón's government, became the premier sanctuary, with Paraguay and Chile serving as additional havens. These South American nations were chosen for their political climates that often harbored sympathies for the fascist cause and immigration policies containing convenient loopholes. The sheer distance from Europe provided a practical barrier to pursuit, giving fugitives time to establish new identities before investigators could pick up their trail. Documentation formed the essential bridge between captivity and freedom. Forged papers transformed known war criminals into ordinary refugees overnight through a sophisticated process. Genuine blank passports obtained through sympathetic officials or stolen from government offices were meticulously filled with fabricated identities, creating documents indistinguishable from legitimate ones. The International Red Cross, overwhelmed by post-war chaos, inadvertently assisted by issuing thousands of travel documents with minimal background checks. Archival footage shows SS officers like Klaus Barbie using Red Cross papers to cross multiple borders without scrutiny. Support came from unexpected quarters. Segments of the Catholic Church became entangled in these networks, with certain clergy providing shelter in church buildings and religious credentials facilitating otherwise impossible border crossings. This involvement often stemmed from shared anti-communist sentiment. Some clerics viewed former Nazis as potential allies against Soviet expansion. The operation's backbone was its financial infrastructure. These networks drew on resources hidden before Germany's collapse to fund safe houses, transportation, and bribes at checkpoints. Many escapees arrived in South America with substantial assets, establishing businesses that allowed them to integrate into local societies without attracting attention. This financial security enabled them to maintain cover stories indefinitely, while victims' families continued searching for justice. High-value targets received priority evacuation, often disappearing within days of being identified. Josef Mengele, the infamous Angel of Death from Auschwitz, escaped to Argentina and lived openly under his own name for years, before adopting aliases when pursuit intensified. By the time comprehensive investigations began, hundreds of significant war criminals had already vanished into new identities abroad. The efficiency of these ratlines revealed an uncomfortable truth. Nazi ideologies retained sympathizers throughout Europe and beyond. The successful escapes weren't merely clever planning, but relied on distributed networks of supporters willing to assist those who had participated in horrific atrocities. This lingering loyalty suggested that while Germany had surrendered militarily, the ideological battle remained unresolved. Justice delayed, famous cases, and the Nazi hunters. While governments focused on new Cold War priorities, the pursuit of justice fell to those who couldn't forget the horrors they had witnessed. A small group of determined individuals took up the daunting task of tracking down war criminals who had disappeared, armed with little more than memories, fragments of evidence, and an unwavering commitment to accountability. This new battlefield required different weapons, Not guns and tanks, but meticulously maintained files, international networks of informants, and the patience to pursue leads across decades. Simon Wiesenthal emerged as perhaps the most relentless of these Nazi hunters. Having survived multiple concentration camps where he lost 89 family members, Wiesenthal channeled his trauma into an extraordinary mission. When history looks back, I want people to know the Nazis weren't able to kill millions of people and get away with it, he once said. In Vienna, he established the Documentation Center, a modest office that became the central nervous system for a global operation to locate SS fugitives. The center's methods were low-tech, but remarkably effective. Wiesenthal maintained a collection of over 100,000 index cards containing fragments of information about suspected war criminals, a pre-digital database built on witness testimonies, newspaper clippings, and tips from around the world. What made these civilian hunters effective was their intimate knowledge of the crimes and perpetrators. Where government agencies saw case numbers, Wiesenthal and his contemporaries saw faces they would never forget. Their personal connection to the Holocaust provided motivation that outlasted shifting political priorities, allowing investigations to continue when official interest waned. The hunt for Adolf Eichmann demonstrated both the challenge and potential success of these pursuits. Like assembling a vast puzzle with pieces scattered across continents, hunters methodically gathered seemingly trivial details, work schedules, family connections, even handwriting samples that eventually revealed his location. As the administrator who coordinated the Holocaust's logistics, Eichmann lived a mundane life in Argentina under the name Ricardo Clement, working as a factory foreman. His capture required civilian Nazi hunters' patient research combined with government resources. When Israeli intelligence agency Mossad finally apprehended Eichmann in 1960, they acted on information painstakingly assembled through years of civilian investigative work. Eichmann's subsequent trial in Jerusalem represented a watershed moment. Placed in a bulletproof glass booth, the former SS lieutenant colonel faced justice in the homeland of the people he had tried to exterminate. His 1962 execution, the only civil execution ever carried out in Israel, demonstrated that even careful escape plans could ultimately fail. The trial brought Holocaust testimony into living rooms worldwide, educating a new generation about atrocities many preferred to forget. In contrast to Eichmann's capture, Joseph Mengele's case revealed the limitations of even the most dedicated pursuits. The Auschwitz doctor who conducted horrific medical experiments managed to evade justice despite numerous near captures throughout South America. He drowned in Brazil in 1979, his identity confirmed only years later through forensic examination. Klaus Barbie represented yet another pattern. Known as the Butcher of Lyon for his brutal torture of French resistance members, Barbie found protection from American intelligence services who valued his anti-communist activities. This political expediency delayed justice until France finally tried him in 1987. Despite immense obstacles, cold trails, dying witnesses, vanishing documents, and legal hurdles, these hunters persisted. Their work sent a powerful message. No matter how much time passed, certain crimes were so profound that the pursuit of justice would never end. Every successful prosecution, even decades later, reinforced the principle that participating in genocide carried a lifelong risk of accountability. After more than 7 decades since the end of World War II, the full accounting of justice for SS crimes remains incomplete. Despite the high-profile cases that captured public attention, the vast majority of SS and police personnel never faced accountability for their atrocities. The sheer scale of involvement made it impossible to bring all perpetrators to justice. This uncomfortable reality reveals the limitations of judicial systems when addressing crimes of such magnitude. For every Eichmann who stood trial, countless others lived quiet lives elsewhere, their true past hidden. The hunt for the SS stands as an unfinished ledger, with justice, however noble its pursuit, unable to fill history's gaps.